The case against Tyler Robinson, who is the man accused of killing Charlie Kirk, is moving a little bit closer to a key decision over whether or not he could face the death penalty. Following a preliminary hearing, both sides have now filed their arguments over whether the case should move forward, and if so, should the death penalty stay on the table. Today, the defense filed their brief, which challenges that critical part of the prosecution's case. Tyler Robinson's attorneys in that filing are arguing that prosecutors have not shown that others were at risk of death in the alleged shooting. And because of that, they argue that the death penalty should be taken off the table. I spoke with Nathan Evershed, who is a defense attorney not associated with the case, about the defense's argument.
It is a big part of the case. Some could claim it's really the only issue in the case. It's a significant issue for the defense because if the judge were to agree with them, or down the road the jury were to agree with them, there is no death penalty.
And we've talked about this in the past. When you're talking about a capital case, I keep hearing time and time again that the defense's number one priority is get death penalty off the table. It seems like that's what's trying to be established here.
Yes, that's 100% right. And sometimes defenses are not that strong to remove aggravating elements. In this case, frankly, they have a good argument, and anyone that's been talking about this case or knows anything about the law has been saying this for nearly a year. This is the issue in the case, and so the defense nicely teed it up. It doesn't mean that the prosecution at this phase in the case doesn't have their responses. They do. They have a lot of things that they're arguing as to zone of danger and line of sight and those things. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the judge rules. The judge could just say that this is just going to be a jury issue. You'll argue it before the jury. Or the judge could say, you know what, yeah, based off of what I see and how I interpret the law, that the aggravating factor could be stricken, and now this is a murder case. It's still an overwhelming murder case, but murder is different than aggravated murder.
Did anything in this most recent filing by the defense surprise you at all, or is this what you would come to expect from a filing by the defense in a case like this?
It's exactly what I came to expect. I mean, they have only so many arguments, and they honed in on this. And you watch, should this be bound over and this goes to trial, this will be the issue by the defense in the jury trial. This will be their drum that they are going to beat that again and again. Again, in their motion, it's interesting to see what they didn't argue, because why argue it? They didn't argue against identity. They didn't argue against intent. They didn't argue about, how these things could be tied back to Mr. Robinson. They had their argument, and they really laid out a good case.
Because really, at the end of the day, they kind of just need to focus on sort of one aspect that they feel may be the strongest in their favor. They don't need
Correct.
to really argue absolutely everything. They need to argue sort of stay narrow focused.
Correct. Because if they're able to get the aggravating factor off, that is a significant win for them.
All right, so the judge is expected to make his ruling on whether or not this case will move forward on September 1st. And this is just a small portion of that interview with Nathan Evershed, again, a criminal defense attorney not associated with this case. So if you'd like to see that full conversation, it's really, really interesting. You can scan the QR code that you see right there on your screen. You can head on over to KUTV's YouTube page. I also did a write-up article on this topic and on this interview. You can find that over at KUTV.com.